Hi, my name is Leah, host of Take a Space podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Right before we get into the show, I would love to share with you one of the podcasts that I've been listening to recently.
Hey y'all, it's Baylor the Great, letting y'all know about my show BTG for President, dropping every Thursday, a part of the Rare Signage Network. Go ahead and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher. Better yet, just type in BaylorTheGreat.com and experience the pure Baylorism, from my opinions being better than your facts to my strategic plans on becoming the next president of the United States. You know, I'm giving y'all the no nonsense from the Southern California perspective. You know, the same place where Ricky and Kane got shot. That's BTG for President, aka the Professional Californian.
Our guest today is Kellz of Culture Marauders, and I was really glad to have this conversation about what are we doing this for? All the protests, all the voting, everything. What are we doing this for? Because in light of recent events, we see time and time again that we do not matter to the system. The system is doing exactly what it has been set up to do. And we want more. So listen in and have this conversation with people around you of how you can effectively change something. Not just for you, but for this next generation. So in this last week or so, what has really fired you up? Either passionately in a negative way or passionately in a positive way?
So I guess passionately in a positive way, right? So just the idea, just the whole election concept, right? Just how everything is going with the elections, how we're pinning our hopes on getting rid of one nuisance, right? And I'm sorry, my son is on school in the background, but he'll be off shortly. But one perceived nuisance, and then we're gonna elect somebody to come in and totally fix everything, right? Everything's gonna be good, happy day. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are in office. Everything's gonna be great,
right?
You know, it just annoys me the fact that we're still not getting the big picture. We're still not seeing the big picture of what really needs to be done. And you know, and in a sense, I don't even think we really know what needs to be done. There needs to be action behind the protests and you know, all the things that are going on and stuff like that. And just electing somebody to become the new head of the snake, it doesn't fix it. So that kind of annoys me, and you know, that's kind of what I've been feeling this past week.
So do you think that because what the conversations that I've been having surrounding the election is, okay, November 4th, what's next?
Exactly.
So regardless of who's in office, what's next? After the protests, what's next? After we get justice, what's next? Mm-hmm. And I think that it's important to talk about the Black agenda, but there's been so many comparisons to other cultures, like the Jewish culture, like many of the Asian cultures, what their agendas are. And it's like, well, no, the public isn't privy to that. And it's like, okay, but me as a Black person, I'm not even privy to the Black agenda.
Yeah, we don't even know the game. We don't even know the sports. But how can we play the game, right? So
right.
We're so far removed from having any say or involvement of how it's played. How do we go about it? So, you know, the conversations my wife and I have been having, it's we have to build. We have to build our own. And when I say build our own, I mean build our own from the bottom up. That's right. The only way we're going to have a say and a seat at the table. We build our own. And I don't know how we go about that. Yes, we have Black-owned businesses, but we need to have infrastructure. We need to have a seat at the table in government, a legit seat at the table, and build and really have a stake. And you know, Ice Cube said it best after the DNC a couple weeks ago. He said, you know, everybody's running around, you know, he said, throwing their heads in the air like they just don't care. We're going to get rid of it. Change is coming. But what have these politicians said that the Black people are getting out of this? Nothing. They have not said a thing. The Democrats don't even have a plan. And you know, trust me, I am not pushing for Trump. I want him out of here just as bad as everybody else. But the Democrats don't have a plan. It's been a giant pep rally. It was a giant week-long pep rally. And they didn't talk about doing anything. It was just feel-good stories. It was virtual hugs, feel-good stories. You know, trials and tribulations that Vice President Biden had gone through. You know, Kamala Harris relating to anything and everything under the sun. But there wasn't a plan. There wasn't a plan.
Right.
You know, and then I turn around and watch the RNC the next week, And unfortunately, they had a plan. We may not like what that plan is, but they have a plan. And it's just, if we're expecting change, we're expecting, this cultural shift, this whole idea of social justice, racial equality, racial equity. If we're expecting this giant shift to happen, the people who are supposed to be implemented, they got to have a plan to do it. You just can't show up like, all right, guys, here we go. So I'm just, it just frustrates me that we're having the blinders put over our eyes again, because what's going to happen, and what I'm afraid is going to happen, is that, yeah, we'll get Biden in office, but the perceived, everything's going to be okay, goes back to being exactly what it was prior to Trump being elected. Blinders over our eyes. So that's just how I'm seeing it right now.
Well, yeah, because everybody keeps talking about going back to normal, when things get back to normal, or we should, but understand, like, just because things are crazy now, it doesn't mean normal was good.
Exactly.
It was just comfortable because that's what people got used to. And so I personally don't want to go back to normal. I want things to be better. Yeah. But I think that, having a solid plan, even if, and I've always advocated for this, in everybody is always trying to fix the world. Mm-hmm. I'm like, look, start in your house.
Yes.
Start definitely in your house. How can you all in your home pull your resources together to move forward, to help then people on your street, then people in your community, then people in your city, things like that. Like, you can only go as far as, the next person can. And if you can't link up with anyone, because nobody is going to be able to fix this all in one shot. Mm-hmm. So it's going to take us at the grassroots to fix it. But I am interested in hearing your thoughts on Black ownership. We did have the 19 families that got like 97 acres of land in Georgia. Do you think that because we've had multiple, and people bring up Tulsa, Oklahoma, but there were places in California, in the Northeast, and other places in the South where we had Black owned areas where we were thriving and we were doing great? What do you think? Do you think that could happen today, where it would last longer than a few years?
Yes, and I think with the proper backing, and it's separating our Black wealth from the tie to white wealth, right?
Okay.
Away from that, not being dependent on, having that handout, having that upper hand, that leverage that we receive from white America. We have to pull away from that. We have to, like you said, grassroots, start from the bottom. I think it starts with education. I think it starts in the household, like you said, taking care of at home first, educating our children, opening up a book, opening up something other than a website that shows you pop culture stuff.
Right.
Really, really digging deep and learning about what's going on with our people, because for far too long, it would be something would pop up, right? And it would catch our attention, but then the next distraction would come in and pull us away from it. And here we are now, right? So, but I definitely believe Black-owned businesses, Black-owned properties, like predominantly Black cities, and don't get me wrong, the name of my show, The Culture Marauders, right? We advocate, we explore all cultures out there, right? Mm-hmm. But as a Black man, as a Black business owner, which the Culture Marauders LLC is a Black-owned small business, it's important to have that out there and show that people of color can be financially successful, like Robert Johnson's, like your Sean Carter's, like your Sean Combs, and lead and be in politics, like your John Lewis. Just there's so much for us to offer. Why are we using these resources to build for somebody else? We take it back and we build within our own. We create our own. And BET doesn't become a laughingstock. The idea of BET was brilliant at the time because it was quality shows. You had Teen Summit, you had gospel shows on Sundays, you had the news, you had the Tavis Smiley shows, you had music videos, pop culture stuff. It was all there until, unfortunately, white America got a hold of it and watered it down and turned it into a minstrel show of sorts. And it just, now it's just there, but it was a platform. It was a perfect jump off point for us, from an entertainment standpoint, and to build from there. But I just think that BET was maybe a little bit too far ahead of its time because we didn't know what to do with it. We didn't know how to take care of it and grow it. But Black businesses, at the end of the day, yes, I think they're essential. I believe that amount was like 21 million worth of land that was given out to those families in Georgia that you mentioned. it came out to like $21 million worth.
Oh, I don't even know what the price of it was. I just know that they were just like these families decided to come together and buy all this land. I don't know if anybody has ever seen almost 100 acres. An acre is a lot. That is a lot of land.
Exactly.
So for these families to come together and get almost 100 acres to build, like they can build their own city where it's like it's self-sufficient within.
So I don't think what happened with Black Wall Street and Tulsa, I don't think that'll happen again. I think that time is over. Only way that happens is if we do it to ourselves. I think Compton was a good example of that. Compton was a thriving suburb in California, in Los Angeles, and the riots and everything that happened, and all that stuff tore down. It was never the same. It still isn't the same, and that's by design. You don't want Black wealth. Unfortunately, in this country, for whatever reason it is, they don't want that, and so I don't think we'll make that same mistake. Again, if we get anywhere close to that, having something that's ours, a city of ours, a city of Oz that belongs to the black community. But on the second end, I don't think we need to keep people solely out. I think they need to work to earn the business, just like we have to work to earn their business from the outside and reach that handout. So if you are of another color, we take care of home first. We take care of each other first.
Right.
But it would be ignorant to ignore the fact that there are potential business opportunities to grow your business, to grow exposure, to grow your presence, by working with other races and cultures and stuff like that. Always leave that open, but at the end of the day, we take care of home and grow home first.
Yeah, it's because some people will argue that segregation is necessary for us to have our time to recoup, come together, and build. Others think that we have to do segregation in steps. We can't just do a stark, like, okay, we need to rip off the Band-Aid. We have to do it little bit by little bit until we're able to be self-sufficient. Other people are saying that in order for Black wealth to occur, we have to stay integrated and work within other communities. And so I see the benefits and the downfalls of all three. One of the things that I've noticed and I don't know, because I don't know a lot about all the economies, but when it comes to Black hair, you will see a lot of the Korean stores pop up, and they have the beauty supply stores. And they're able to, buy from India and buy from different places to get hair to go to. But we have like the Bronner Brothers convention, right? Yeah. But we don't really have access the way they have access, where if they feel that they don't want to sell to us, they can just blackball us where we don't have access to that, right? So I see that it's important to have those relationships. But at what point do we say, okay, well, I understand Black first, but when does it count? When does it go from Black first to Black only? You know what I'm saying?
I don't think it necessarily needs to go to Black only. I mean, as a child of the world, military, serving, traveling all over, meeting different walks of life and people, I understand growing our own and taking care of our own, but I don't think it should be solely exclusive to our own.
Talk about it.
In order to really reach out and understand how the other side lives and their struggles, you still have to stay connected to them at some point. Otherwise, we're just our own pocket. We don't grow with people. We don't grow as a people.
Right.
We limit the art that we're exposed to. We limit to different forms of food, culture, all those different things. We limit ourselves into a little pocket, and then what does that leave us? We only know what we know, and that breeds ignorance. So I think we still need to be connected. Just take care of home base first. That's all. Just make sure we take care of everything else before we go out, seeking all these other things, and making it work first before we seek something else.
So do you think that it is, because what I've seen is that a lot of people go from, well, Black first to Black only, but it's just like, because I never really understood, because, okay, I grew up in the Bay Area in California. And so it's very diverse.
Oh, yeah.
So it's, everybody. And so it's hard for me to be like, yeah, Black only, when it's like you said, there's other cultures, other art, other food, other things to experience it.
Let me ask you, would you be comfortable with that? Just being completely Black owned? If it was a stop today and you only had to rely on Black owned business, Black owned, this and this today, would you be comfortable with that? Or would you need some time to, get adjusted to that idea?
If we had to,
because I'm sure there's probably some great stores, some great restaurants, some great businesses.
I don't think we're efficient enough, self-sufficient enough in order for that to happen. Right. But from the conversations that I've had, there are some who would think that we would just have to figure it out. And I was like, okay, if I have to figure out gardening from YouTube, sir, we would not be eating. Okay. If I have to figure out how to slaughter, first of all, where am I going to get these animals? Okay. Like I know that some of us own stuff, but not enough to take care of the 40 million of us that are here in America. You know what I mean? So I don't think that it should cut off the rest of the world or even the rest of the nation just so that, but we do need time to build. So I think that having that Black first mentality, just like anybody with a family, it's family first. Like anything goes down, taking care of my family before I take care of anybody else, because I need to make sure they're safe. Right. There was another thing I was going to ask you about, and I can't remember what it was, but there are so many instances where now we see it's important to have a Black agenda, or even a community agenda, because if we can't come together as a community, especially and one of the things that my sister pointed out to me is that when we start seeing like the riots happen, it wasn't just like the protesters. They will always put the protesters grouped in with the looters and rioters, right? But I treat them as separate people, because the people who were protesting were not necessarily rioting, but whatever. So in Vallejo, California, they were burning down, like it's an older neighborhood that they're trying to build up. And the culture of home ownership changes, or the culture around the neighborhood changes when there's home ownership. If we had, like you said, education first. So if we had the education and home ownership, how do you think, or first of all, how quickly do you think we would be able to achieve that generationally? And how do you think that would change as far as, because we don't necessarily strive for the American dream, because that's not really meant for us, but we strive for what we see as success. So
I'm gonna take it from that point. What is it that we view as success? What is it that we, as a people, what is it that we value?
Well, my community, we value family.
Okay.
And so it's education. It's always education and family.
Okay. All right. So for us, it's family and hard work. That's what it is for us, and education as well. But family, hard work, education. That's it. If you can give me those three things, we'll figure out the rest. But as a culture, right? As a people, Black people, it's not always the case. There's different things. So how do we break it down to the most basic point, right? That form of education, and then you may have the plan on how to educate, but you also have to have people who are receptive to it. There's some people are just gonna be blocked off, like, man, I ain't trying to hear that. Whatever.
Right. Man. Sure.
So we're always going to be stuck at that sticking point, at that bottleneck of receiving the information. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard, because we've been kicked down and held down for so long. It's hard to rally up, especially with the older generation. They've seen this for so long, and people on their way out are like, now it's going to change, and somebody brought up a good point. They said, Dr. King was 38 years old when he was assassinated, fighting for the same thing that Frederick Douglass fought for, that, people before that fought for, Nat Turner's, all these things. And now it's going to change,
right.
And it's a hard sell, because you see nothing to show you otherwise, and it's going to be tough. I honestly don't have the answer for you. I do believe education is key. You need strong leadership, strong accountable leadership. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's going to have, their blemishes and their marks. Nobody's perfect. but you have to have somebody that's going to be willing to stand in that fire and take those hits and take those blows in order to, lead us to where we need to be, have those opportunities. And it's going to take those Black business owners, the little bit of Black wealth that we have, to come together and start implementing this. Our minds, the great Black minds that we have out there, the intellectuals, we need them to come in and start laying this foundation instead of just staying off to the back being commentators. We need you here. We need you on the front lines to start building this out now. I'm not trying to hear you on these talk shows and stuff. We need you to get to work. All right. And that's how it goes.
Why is it so hard in our community to keep? Because I feel like, and I don't know if you grew up in church, but for whatever reason, is in some communities, it's hard to keep a pastor. Why is it so hard in the Black community to keep a leader?
Well, money plays into it.
Okay.
I think money plays into it. Greed. And then maybe their intentions weren't true to begin with. They were there, and I'm not a religious person by any means. I've seen things in my time in the military, and just my perception of what the pastor does. First of all, you shouldn't be passing around. You shouldn't be collecting that amount of money, right? If you're collecting that type of money, you shouldn't be rolling around in something like extravagant, like this high-end luxury car. You should,
especially when half your congregation is walking. Yeah,
exactly. Take that money, and why don't you provide a busing service or a van service or something to get those people that are walking to there? That's how you develop the leadership. That's how you develop the buy-in. You can go up there and speak to the book, but if anybody can take a book or in a way where it's translated to in layman's terms, instead of going and paying you money to tell me the same message, it's just, I think corruption. It's definitely corruption in the church. So money, and then it's just bad intentions. Some people are good, but I take Joel Osteen down in Houston when the storm hit. What was it, last year or the year before? He closed his church.
Harvey?
No, Joel Osteen. Yeah, it was Harvey.
Yeah.
He closed the church. The church is supposed to be a safe haven for people, right? He closed his church.
Right.
So I don't know. This is what really pisses me off, right? Because you're supposed to be a community leader. You're supposed to be, you got the people's ear. People are giving you their money for whatever reason that you're asking for it, but you give them nothing in return, and then you leave. So it just doesn't make sense to me, and I just don't think they were so sincere from the beginning. That's just how I see it.
Who would you think would make a solid leader? That, and mind you, we have said it on the show multiple times. Black people are not a monolith. We can't just say there's a one size fits all for all Black people, because we have, even within our culture, there are so many different cultures where, the way people talk where you are in Florida versus the way people talk where I am and where I lived in the Bay Area, or and this is even a culture shock coming into Charlotte.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot. But who would you think would be a solid leader at this time to get us to move past November 3rd? Because everybody's saying to go vote. And like you said, DNC isn't really giving us anything if we go vote, except for these stories of like, well, this is what the Democratic Party stands for. Okay, but what are you going to do?
Exactly.
If you hear Joe Biden, he literally says he's not going to change much. He really said that. And so who do you think would be a solid leader in that?
I would, and it can't be one person. It can't be one person, right? Because it wasn't one person that got us to where we're at now. Mm-hmm. It has to be a coalition of sorts. I definitely think President Obama should have a seat at the table. From serving at the highest office in the country, right? You definitely got to have him. I'd like to see Colin Powell on that from a military standpoint. From female perspective, Condoleezza Rice, because she's also served under the Republican side, right? So, I think she was Secretary of State, if I'm not mistaken. Bring her in because she knows she can shake the hand. She's dealt with it on a global level, right? Right. Bring her in. Education. Dr. Cornel West. Bring him in. There's so many different people. But you can't have it all from one spectrum, right? You need it all the way across. So you got to bring in your Candace Owens, people just to kind of stir the pot and stuff like that. You got to bring in people to make you see it from a different idea, because if we're all looking at it through the same lens, we're missing the big picture otherwise, right? We got to have that other side of the coin to take a look at. But it's still black minds, it's still black mindsets looking at it from a black perspective, but just from the right versus the left, So that's why I think
there are more conservative people that I would respect who are black that are not Candace Owens. So,
and, Candace Owens, I know what she said, right? And I'm like, man, you're crazy. And I was like, let me listen to you again. I'm here. I'm listening. I'm hearing you, but I'm not listening to you, right? Because it just sounds crazy. But why does it sound crazy?
So here's the thing. Because initially, I hadn't heard a lot of what she said. There were only like snippets, mm-hmm. right? And so she did a sit down with Mark Lamont Hill. Mm. And she keeps making these statements about how liberals are so afraid to come and talk to her and how they really don't have a leg to stand on. And I'm just like, well, why would she feel this way? Mm. And I was listening to her speak, and maybe it's just because of my background as an orator. Uh-huh. She has a lot of skewed, like the data that she reports on is skewed. Mm. The way that she reports on it is the information is then manipulated. Yeah. She does a lot of things like whataboutisms. She has a lot of fallacies. There's a lot of false dichotomies. Oh, if you believe X, then you have to believe the entire alphabet. If this, then that. Mm. And those types of arguments, there hasn't really been anything that I can say that she's great at what she does as in order to get you to put you in a corner to make you have to choose left or right. Mm-hmm. But in her thought patterns, I can't really say that she is, she's necessary, because her discourse is so dangerous because of the way that she talks, especially about Black men. Mm. So I can understand that having a conservative standpoint, because I agree. We have to have, the complete liberal, we have to have the complete conservative, and we have to have people in the middle. Right. Because we have to have these different perspectives if we want to ensure that as many voices are heard as possible. Mm. But I think that her specifically, her discourse is very dangerous to a lot of people, because even listening to her, I don't know if she likes herself. I really don't. I really don't. And it's sad. It really is. It's very sad, because
she wants to be something other than herself.
Yeah. And
coming out saying she wishes that she was white, without coming out and saying that. Yeah. That's what I get. I'll just say it. But yeah. Okay. Maybe not her particularly, but maybe
but a different conservative individual. Yes, I can agree with that. But her specifically, and I can't think of any conservatives off top that are Black that because I listen to them as a group, mm-hmm. really, as opposed to them individually, because no one has really stood out on the conservative side. But her specifically, I went out to listen to her specifically because she just kept coming up, and I didn't know why her discourse bothered me. And it was just because I'm just like, well, you're the reason. Well, he should have did this, or she should have did that, or why did he speak? And I'm just like, okay, obviously you don't live the same Black experience that the rest of us do.
Yeah, that's true. And she pointed out, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, she called out LeBron James, I want to say yesterday, I want to say it was yesterday, where she goes, well, if you're living with racism, I want some of that. And she goes, LeBron has a white chef. He has a white driver. He has white staff. He has white handlers. So how is his life so bad? And I'm like, that doesn't mean it. That doesn't.
It's things like that I'm just like, oh Lord. Like,
I threw it all off by even name dropping her. Maybe I should have said someone with a little bit more, I guess, a better orator when it comes to the right side of it, I guess. Like somebody who can convey the message a little bit better
Well,
without
even if they can't convey the message, it's more about their thought process, right? Like I think that it's more important for me to understand how you think and why you think the way you think. Because even if you can't get your message across in a succinct or clear manner, if I can understand what you're getting at, I'm good with that. Everybody doesn't have to be this great orator, but your thought process and the way that you treat people and the way you see things, to say that because somebody has money, that like means that they're absolved from all the racism and prejudice that comes with life, because LeBron was not born into the NBA.
Exactly.
He was a black man a lot longer than he was in the NBA. Like, let's be
exactly. And you forget about that. You're looking at how he lives now, but you forget the steps that he took. The schools he opened, the bike giveaways he did, the things that he did with the military when he was down in Miami. You forget about seeing those things, you know, and to take it a step further, take it from somebody who has money, right? Usai Ujiri, the GM, I think he's the GM for the Toronto Raptors, right? When they won the championship last year and they were coming out on the court, a police officer pushed him back. This is the GM, a front office man for the franchise. They would not let him on the court and violently pushed him back because he didn't show the right credentials. He's like, no, I haven't. And when he's trying to reach for it, they're pushing him again. And then they come to find out, you know, the cop was wrong. And when the cop said, oh, no, he started. No, it was wrong. But you have all this position. You've won an NBA championship. You're the head of the snake at your organization underneath the owner. And it's still not good enough as a black man, you know? So, yeah.
Like, I think that there will be significant change that happens when we don't have to prove that we belong. Yes. Like this whole notion of prove to me that you belong here.
That's over.
Like, you know, I think it was because there were a slew of videos that people would just start putting up like around June, July, I think, of this year. This year has been so long. Oh my gosh. I think it was July. Oh, we still got like 3.5 months left. But there were a slew of videos that were put up where it was just like, you know, show me that you belong in this gym. Show me that you belong in this neighborhood. You know, people pulling, like there was a video of a man standing in his yard and the police just was like, what are you doing here? What's going on? And he was like,
I just bought this house or something like that. Was that it?
Yeah, he was like, he said, this is my house. Yeah. And he was like, well, show me your license.
He's like, I don't have to show you that.
Why would I need to show you my license? Yeah. And then the guy calls for backup. And it's like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
How did we get here? Then his woman comes outside and it's just like,
yeah, it's
why are we doing this?
It's fear. And I think our nation's insecurities and fears are finally truly coming to the forefront, and it's on full display, and it is ugly. Mm-hmm. And you know, where before, you know, they would keep it or kind of keep it suppressed or, you know, like, I'm not sure. Well, they've been emboldened by who we have in office. Orange Julius, we got in office right now. Mm-hmm. And he's emboldened them to come out and just say what's on your mind, act how you feel. And there's no repercussions for it. There's no consequences.
Right.
So what do you expect? You know, and it's wrong. Don't get me wrong, it's wrong. But if you're allowing that, our nation's leader is allowing this, what can you do? You know, besides fight back, but it's going to cost you your life, you know? So
right.
My wife and I, we had a conversation at one point. We were actually really thinking about leaving, like just leaving and
leaving the country.
Yeah. Leaving the country. And,
wow.
And you know, after you calm down and stuff, you think, and it's like, well, is it going to be any better anywhere else? Do you give up on your country? But at the end of the day, this wasn't really our country to begin with. You know, It's like, it's kind of what we inherited, the situation that we're in, but our ancestors, this isn't their country. So do you stay behind and help make it better? Or do you leave and take all your resources with you, all our resources with us, all our athletes, all our money, all our style, all our culture, all our food? We take all of that with us. Mm-hmm. Have your country, take it, and then see how bad you need us later. You know, and it's not going to be nearly the same. It won't be anything near the same.
Right.
You know, and then see how bad you want it then.
So having that conversation, because I know it got rough. Mm-hmm. Having that conversation of leaving And then people are always, oh, if you don't like it, go back to where you came from. It's like, bruh, I did not.
Believe me, if I could not do
I did not ask to be here. Let's be very clear. I didn't ask to be here. But having that conversation, how do you have that conversation with your kids?
Well, I brought it up to my oldest son. He's 15. He's about to be 16 next month. I brought it up to him, and he's like, "Really?" Because he was born as a military child in Germany.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like, and that was the place we were talking about moving, Germany. And and he's like, "Man, that'd be pretty cool." And I explained it to him, and he's like, "Yeah, that makes sense, Dad." But me and my wife talked about it, and she still has her family here, and I got family here, and the decision came just to ride it out and see. It's not completely off the table, but let's see what happens. And but yeah, we, to my little ones, my 5 and my 7-year-old, we hadn't talked to them about it yet, or at all, to be honest with you. But I don't think that's a conversation to have with them just yet until it's really, really kind of looking like, okay, this is the way we're going. We do talk to them about, what's going on in the world and everything that's happening, I guess with the gentlest kids gloves that you can have, without freaking them out and scaring the hell out of them. But the conversations are out there, and my daughter, she told me, like, right after everything with George Floyd happened, she said one of her friends told her Black people are bad. And you see, and exactly, you're shaking your head. And she said that, and I looked, I said, who told you that? And, and oh, my friend, I said, no, not Black people are bad. I said, Black people are not bad. I said, not every black person is good. I said, just like not every white person is good. Not every Hispanic person is good. Not every brown person, Latino, Asian. Not every person is good. Not every person is bad. But I said, but we as a people, we are not bad. I said, we go through different things that a lot of people don't go through. And I explained some of the things, just, stuff like that. And she's real in tune with her hair, right? She always wants, oh, I want my hair straight. Mommy, can you straighten my hair? So why don't you wear twists? I said, why don't you do it like this? Make it look really cool. And, we have to show her there are other options,
Yeah.
Own your
6?
She's 7.
She's 7. Okay.
So I said, own you, own your culture, own your beauty, own your Blackness, right? There's nothing to that. Own that, and that's the education, right? We don't want to be like everybody else, because now they're wanting to be like us, getting, the hair and the, they want the Black woman features, the natural features. They want to like that. Where before, 20 years ago, or 20, 30 years ago, I don't want that, no. But now it's shifting. And now they're wanting to come back and be like us. But now we have to teach our children, okay, see, we're beautiful too. And now they want to be like us. You don't want to be like the Disney princess. You be you. Be you. Right. So.
Well, because even 20, 30 years ago, they wouldn't say, I don't want it. They would say, that is ugly.
Yes.
You are fat. Your lips are too big. Your nose is too broad. I don't like your eye shape. I don't like your ears. Your hair is terrible. It's just nappy. You look dirty. All these things. But then it's like, who's Brian Bronzer and spray tan? Who is going to make sure that they get skin cancer by the time they're 40? Like, who's doing all these things? Like, who I've had the conversation with so many people, and especially like people in Berkeley, who talk about getting dreads and not knowing where it comes from. Like, getting dreadlocks is, even the term dreadlocks is not, I didn't realize the history of it until maybe 3 years ago. And I just started my locks, maybe it'll be 2 years in December. And so, like watching how much they're just like, oh, I hate them, but I want to be just like them.
Exactly.
Like big booties weren't a thing until J-Lo was like, oh, look, I have one.
And Kim Kardashian took it.
Oh my God.
Well, hey,
y'all look terrible.
Oh man.
I don't even know what it looks like when it's natural. Y'all need to stop.
Yeah, and it looks crazy. It's even worse. And now even our own sisters are doing it. You got Megan and Nikki, and it's like, why do this to yourself? Why do this to yourself? You don't have to do this, know? And you become a cartoon. You stop listening to what they're saying and just look at what they are, and just so much missed talent and opportunity out there because you want to fit an idea, and that's not genuine. It's not real. It's all smoke and mirrors. You're not this person. This is who you are on stage. So You know, you got to put a better example out there if you want change, especially from an entertainment standpoint. And the young women and little girls out there who are watching you, you got to put a better example out there. I miss the Queen Latifahs. I miss the MC Lights. I even miss old Lil' Kim, because old Lil' Kim was a lane, right? She was one of a kind. And if you didn't want to listen to her, don't listen to her. But she was doing something different, you know. Mm-hmm. And now it's like people even forget, like, Lil' Kim, who's that? Because you got all these other people copying her, you know. It's just wild, and we're just all over the place as a people. It's so confusing and frustrating at the same time.
So how do you talk to your kids? Because your kids are kind of in different places.
No kid should ever have to go through that stuff, right? No kid should. And it sucks that we have to teach our kids this now, you know, and have those talks. And, you know, Procter & Gamble putting out those commercials with the talk, you know. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the one with the black judge or yeah, you know, and all that stuff. And it's like, it sucks that we have to put these out there, where it should just be inherent that it's common sense. It's the golden rule, right? Treat people how you want to be treated, you know. And even to go back further, you know, where you're talking about, you know, pop culture and the hair and women wanting the hair and the lips, the full figure and stuff like that. It's like, you want our rhythm, but you don't want our blues. You don't want the blues that come with having these things. You know, right. It's all good for show and everything, but you don't want the real Black experience that we go through almost on a daily basis.
Right. And I think that you say that it should be common knowledge, treat people how you want to be treated. But I think there's also a huge hurdle that we have to jump, and we haven't gotten there yet. We're getting close, but like we're only a little bit closer than 60 years ago, okay. Because we're asking for the same thing. See us as human. That's the bare minimum. See us as human. But so many people, just like your daughter's classmate, don't see us as human. You know, all Black people are bad. All Black people are this. They're criminals. They do like, oh, in the 90s, made sure parade all the Black people across the screen every single night. So whenever you see a Black man, you run across the street. Don't get in an elevator with them. You know they want to come and rape and kill and all this kind of stuff. It's like
do something to
and I'm just like, and it almost was. I think it was crazy to think like. To take a moment to think how, and I've never met you in person, but to think how, as great of a conversation we're having, there's someone who sees you as scary. There's someone who sees you as threatening, even though you're well-spoken, even though you're very articulate, even though, you know, you seem to come across as a very level-headed person. Like there's someone who sees you as scary. There's someone who sees like my brothers or my cousins or even like my god brothers, sweetest person ever, but sees them as scary just because they are Black.
Yeah, and I got that when I went to my wife's job. Just met her coworkers for the first time. She works in the medical field, right? She's public health. I went in just to, you know, surprise her and take her to lunch. Popped in and she introduced me, walked me around, and she goes, "Oh, your husband's scary." Exact same thing he said. And she goes, "Why?" You know, all he said was hi and stuff like that. And, you know, I'm 5'10", 230, you know, and I try to stay in the gym. So maybe from a physical standpoint, I might be a little bit more imposing, but I'm not an asshole of a person. You know, I'm a nice person, you know, and yeah, she told me that. And I'm like, well, I'm not surprised. I get that a lot. But as soon as you get to speak to me and see what kind of person I am, you know, then it changes, you know, and I always get that, man, I thought you were mean when I first went. Why? Just because I look a certain way? Because, you know, and it's not fair, but, you know, that's the name of the game. But if that's what I can do with the Culture Marauders and like day-to-day interactions with people, conversations I have with people to show like, this isn't who we are. That's my part to try to help, you know, change the narrative, win the hearts and minds and stuff like that in this race war that we're stuck in right now. And you know, that's what I can do.
So how do you have this conversation? Because you have one son or two?
I have two sons, 1 5, 1 15.
So how do you have this conversation of them living life as a Black man in America?
So my oldest son, he's a half white. My first wife was white, and you know, he lives up in Maryland with her, and I have to have those conversations with him. Like, look, dude, I was like, the things that you're saying and putting out there, I said, you have to consider you're still half black. Regardless of what you're doing up there or what you think is cool, you're still half black. You're going to go through a little bit more than your friends who aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that in mind. I said, if you get pulled over, the story is going to be different than your white friend getting pulled over. If you go into a grocery store, the story of your shopping experience is going to be a little bit different than what your white friends are going through. And I have to constantly reinforce that. Yes, I'd rather not, but I'd rather have him be aware and see it and recognize it. Like, oh, all right, let me shift this. Then, his mother called me saying something happened to, my son or something like that. And I have to tell her too, there was a situation. He was playing football in 8th grade and he was a running back and his coach called him Black Beauty. Oh, Black Beauty. And I'm like, whoa. I said, what did you say to his coach? Oh, I didn't think there's anything wrong with it. I said, they don't call Tom Brady white Tom Brady, or hey, there goes the white stallion or the white knight. They don't call those players that. So why would it be okay for him to identify our son by his race? And she didn't have an answer. I said, either you talk to him or I will. And so, she went back and, kind of had the conversation, kind of smooth over. It never happened again. And my son didn't understand. I was like, you will never be identified by the color of your skin. I don't care if you are as great as you are or whatever on the field. You will be identified by your name and your talent, not by your race. And that's it.
So with your son who's 5, who's just like started something, because I know he's probably just like watching you like all the time and see, oh, how does dad move and how do I do this? How do you talk to him about not necessarily what's going on now, but how he's expected to kind of adjust, because he doesn't have the unfortunately our kids don't really have the freedoms that white kids have as far as that entitlement. And so how do you have that conversation with him, especially with everything going on? We have the election going on. We are in like 1,001 pandemics. And the world may end tomorrow. I don't know. Like it's just so much going on. Like, how do you have a conversation with him about like what any expectations or any encouragement that you give him and coaching to live life?
Well, even with him and my daughter, because they're my 2 youngest and they're here, right? And in that area we live in, it's a upper middle class area. It's a pretty nice area. It's a golf course. And I don't play golf. My family doesn't play golf, but it's nice. And it affords us an opportunity to send our kids to a high rated school.
Okay.
Area. So take the good with the bad, right? I wish it was a little bit more diverse, but it is what it is. So, but in our neighborhood, right, our kids go out and the best education we can give them, get out and mingle with as many kids from different walks of life as possible. White kids, there's Indian kids across the street that play. There's a kid from Brazil. There's kids from a Russian background. Their parents or their mother is from the Ukraine. So they interact with all these different kids. And so by them getting out and doing that, they're an extension of us. The values and everything that we put into them, they go out and they're going to cause trouble and goof off. They're 5 and 7, but at the heart of it, they know right from wrong. When these kids are doing things, they will have the knowledge and the home training to know when to speak up and say, hey, this is wrong. Or if something happens, they'll come back and tell me, Dad, this is what happened. So it's not trying to beat them over the head with what's happening, but just kind of let them go out there, do their thing. But if there's something that there needs to be talked about, we bring it back and we talk about it at home and move on from there. Because I don't want to take the experience of being a child away from at such an early age, and
right.
Kids are being forced to grow up so much sooner, so much faster than in generations before.
Right.
And
oh my gosh,
my daughter beat me over the head about a phone at 7 years old. I'm like, I didn't get my first phone until I was like 19. But I don't want to rob them of that, because you only get one chance in life to be a kid. Right. A small kid, right? But right. I don't want to take that from him, but I don't want him to go out into the world blind either. So, if we keep an eye on it, we know all the parents and stuff, all the homes that they're in. And if anything comes out of it, hey, if I got to go over there, they ain't gonna like what's going to happen if I have to go over there because you treated my child wrong. But it's never been that way. Any type of feedback we get from families and stuff, man, your kids are so respectful, may I please, sir, and that's what we teach them. Be respectful, because that goes a long way, even with the police. I've been pulled over numerous times, And fortunately for me, it's never gotten to the point where it's been violent or I've had a gun drawn on me because I'm respectful. Hands on the dash, on the steering wheel. Yes, sir. No, sir. And that's it. And a lot of times I get out of tickets, just by being respectful. And I never have to flash my military ID. Not once. And just having it in my hands and just being respectful, and I'm sent on my way. That was living in Las Vegas, that was living in New Jersey, and that was living in North Carolina, all 3 times, and never had an incident like that. And, it's unfortunate that you see it, out there. And that's why I try to train my son. He just got his permit last week. And I'm telling you, like, dude, have everything in a pouch, dashboard, or put it on the hood of your car, hands on the steering wheel, and it's yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Act like you have some sense and use the manners and the respectful nature that we taught you how to be.
Yeah, and I think that is, it's such a fine line to toe, especially with your younger ones. I think your oldest son is starting to see more of that reckless, talk to you any kind of way because whether you're half or full or whatever, we're still going to see you as XYZ, you know what I mean? And so I think that it's great when I can talk to parents and they're like, no, we're having the conversation. Like, no, I want them to understand what it means to wear this skin.
Yeah.
And even though a lot of time, because we don't really have a lot of things that are ours, but being able to say, no, my family is mine and I'm taking care of that. That's such a powerful thing. And I definitely appreciate the way that you're like really being proactive in that.
I'm trying. I would dread getting that phone call just like any other parent would dread getting that phone call. So I have to set them up for success and teach them not to be scared, right? Like we're in a spot right now where we're looking at Black as almost as a burden. Being Black is beautiful. Being Black is cool. Like right now, we're just kind of stuck in a situation where the best things are happening to us as a people. But overall, I mean, we're creative, we're brilliant, we're intelligent, we're naturally gifted, and it's just there's so many good things to be proud of being Black, and we can't let these little incidents here and there, and just these naysayers and all this, basically haters. That's what it is. Haters just hate on us and make us think that we're less than that, because we're far more than that. We have far more to offer, and which ties us back to the very first question. We take all those resources and all those things that we have to offer, and we build our own and make it to where they want in, but it's going to cost you to get into this versus the other way where we're just hoping we can get in.
Right.
It's going to cost you to come in.
Right. And then we have situations where we don't have to worry about cultural appropriation because they've bought into it. So they have to pay us in order to get it, to boost our wealth. And so I think that's great. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Yeah, it's fun. I could do this all day. I told you I like to talk.
Where can people find you?
Hey, so thank you for asking. So the Culture Marauders, right? So we just wrapped up season 1, probably about a month ago. I'm taking a little bit of a break, but season 1's in the book. Season 2 is coming here at the end of the year. We got some big things coming out. I can't really disclose. I can disclose to you off camera, but some things coming up. But if you want to check us out on Instagram at _culture_marauders, or check us out on Facebook at the Culture Marauders. Or if you just want to hit up me, your boy Kellz, hit us up on our Gmail at theculturemarauders@gmail.com. Marauding on all culture and delivering the goods to the masses, aka y'all, the listeners out there. Thank you for riding with your boy Kellz, and it's been a great topic and discussion.
Well, thank you so much. As always, you can find us Take Up Space Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Make sure that you tune in every Tuesday where we drop episodes at 10 a.m. Central Time. Definitely appreciate you. Thank you so much, Kellz, for coming through. We'll see you guys next time.
All right.